Gettysburg Address. What's the Gettysburg Address, you ask? Well, it's a speech that this fellow wrote to address the impact of the battles of Gettysburg during the Civil War in hopes to pull the country together. He has given us lovely ladies the honor, so flattered, thank you, given us the honor of popping up and rhetorically analyzing this masterpiece of a speech.
fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure.
There we saw Honest Abe start his speech with a link to the past. By connecting it to his present in the war the soldiers are fighting, he brings logic to the discussion. With an implied syllogism, he drives his point home. All men are created equal. Slaves are men, so shouldn't slaves be equal? This logical appeal, known as the logos of the speech, is based on the argument of the message and gives flair to Abe's address. His organization is apparent and flows right on to the next section.
Back to you, Abe.
We are met here on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of it as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little know, nor long remember what we say here, but can never forget what they do here.
Popping up! That's so fun. This part of the speech is a great example of Aristotle's artistic proof, pathos. The pathos proof, according to Aristotle, focuses on the feelings the speaker draws out of the audience and appeals to the emotions of the listeners. Here, Abraham appeals to emotions by commemorating the fallen soldiers, and he mentions that they gave their lives for our nation as an emotional appeal to the audience. He also showcases an emotional appeal when he notes that we, as a nation, could not hallow the land that the Gettysburg Address was fought on, and only the brave men who died and who are still alive that fought that battle can do so. Back to you, Abe.
It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they have, thus far, so nobly carried on. It is rather for us to be here, dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they here gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation shall have a new birth of freedom, and that this government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from this earth.
Throughout his speech, we saw that Mr. Lincoln really is Honest Abe, but what truly gives him good character? Let me tell you. Abraham has 3 basic qualities that show his ethos, or perceived credibility: perceived intelligence, virtuous character, and goodwill. We saw his intelligence throughout the speech, linking his argument together. He pieced together both past and present while also using an implied syllogism. Virtuous character? Mr. Abe just gave an entire speech to encourage others to fight for the rights of those who have been denied theirs for years. Finally, Honest Abe spends his presidency showing his goodwill towards the American people. He bears no one ill and fights for all of the rights of the citizens of the United States.
What is the Gettysburg Address, you say? Well, it is... I forgot. What is the Gettysburg Address, you say? Well, it's this... I forgot again. What's the Gettysburg Address, you ask? Well, it's a speech that this fellow wrote to address the Battle of Gettysburg and its impact on the United States during the Civil War. Okay.